play some sound from before one of Donald Trump's events in Nevada yesterday. And it's rhetoric from Marjorie Taylor Greene and another Republican supporter. And it's the type of thing that we have heard on the trail recently, which is almost messianic rhetoric concerning Donald Trump. Listen to this.
Oh, President Trump is a convicted felon. Well, you want to know something? The man that I worship is also a convicted felon. And he was murdered on a Roman cross.
We're here in Sunset Park to worship and bring back the greatest president we've ever known in our generation.
So what do you think when you hear rhetoric like that?
I don't even know what to think, John. I mean, look, I'm not going to speak for the American people, but I think that rhetoric speaks for itself. And what our focus is, John, on this campaign is to make sure that every single voter understands the contrast, understands what is at stake, that Donald Trump and his MAGA allies are focused on seeking revenge and retribution. They are running a negative campaign that is not focused on the American people, but is focused on themselves. We are making sure that the American people understand that President Joe Biden is fighting for them. He wants to continue his policies of lowering costs for families, lowering prescription drug costs, continuing his agenda of economic freedom, whereas Republicans are focusing on themselves. And Donald Trump has made it very clear that if he steps back into that White House, he will rule as a dictator on day one. He will use the White House to seek political revenge and retribution on his political enemies. He has said things that, he's praised the Third Reich. He's used, racist rhetoric at every chance that he has. President Biden has delivered for the American people 15 million jobs, record unemployment growth. When it comes to the Latinos in particular, at one point, John, when President Donald Trump was in office, there was 47% unemployment among Latinos. Joe Biden has created over 4.8 million jobs for Latinos. We want to make sure that every single voter, all Latino voters, understand what's at stake and what President Biden has delivered for them.
Adrienne Elrod, appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you. In Nevada, Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a way, compared Donald Trump to Jesus. There was another Republican figure who did. And there's this song that's making the rounds on TikTok, big with the kids, that does the same thing, which compares Donald Trump pretty overtly to Jesus. I want to play a little bit of that.
I am the chosen one.
Again, we've been asking this morning, Doug, what people's impressions are of this. What is one to make of that, Doug?
Well, clearly it's crazy time, John. There's no doubt about it. But I think Donald Trump benefits from us talking about the crazy time and not then focusing on those other issues that Trump either loses on or can gain from. When we talk about all the weird things that Donald Trump does, and we fact check the 37 lies that he told in a speech, what we're not doing is talking about the issues that everyday Americans care about. They don't focus on this weirdness, and it is weird. They focus on the issues that impact them. They focus on inflation and the economy. They focus on the border. And I think when we get distracted by all these weird things that Donald Trump does, and yes, Simon is right, don't spend time with Joe Arpaio, yeah, we lose focus on those things that voters are telling us very loudly that they're concerned about.
Very quickly, Simon, your response to that. I'm wondering if you agree with that.
Well, I do think the election is going to be contested around the economy and healthcare and who's going to keep us safe. And also, I think on fundamental values. I think this issue of having a guy who now we know is, committed sexual assault, who has defrauded the government of hundreds of millions of dollars, who's now 34 times a felon. I think these things are really going to matter. I mean, we know this from Republicans like Mitt Romney, who talk about this all the time, that he just can't support a Republican who's been found, to have committed sexual assault. So I do think in addition to all the issues that Doug is talking about, which really matter, the issues of values, leadership, integrity are also going to really matter in this election.
All right, Simon Rosenberg, Doug Heye. What Simon's talking about there is Donald Trump was found liable in the civil case, the E. Jean Carroll case of sexual assault. Appreciate you both being here.
Former President Donald Trump is set to attend a pre-sentencing interview after a jury found him guilty on all 34 felony counts in his hush money trial. But yesterday in Las Vegas, his most ardent supporters described the conviction as a sign of his martyrdom, with the head of the Nevada Republican Party going as far as to say that Trump supporters should worship the presumptive GOP nominee. And Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene comparing Trump to Jesus. Now, as temperatures soared into the triple digits, Trump told his supporters what he thinks about them.
Everybody was so worried yesterday about you, and they never mentioned me. I'm up here sweating like a dog. They don't think about me. I'm working my ass off. I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care. It would be suicide before Biden, right?
Now, Trump has a history of bathing in messianic rhetoric. Throughout his trials, he's cast himself as a martyr, compared himself to Jesus, and reshared fan videos like this one, which he declares, quote, "God gave us Trump." And from his presidency, of course, you may recall this viral moment.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
Here to discuss our chosen ones this morning, former assistant to President Biden, Megan Hayes, and CNN political commentator Shermichael Singleton. Shermichael, I mean, you know, the Jesus stuff, the Messiah stuff, isn't that offensive to evangelicals, conservative Christians?
It's going to put me in the hot seat this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think a lot of evangelicals will look at the former president and say, oh, you know, that's a little bit of fodder. You know, they have their religious beliefs. And you see some people who were at the event. I actually talked to someone who was there, and he said a lot of people looked at it as sort of jokes and bluster. They really wanted to hear the former president, make his case about why he's the better alternative, his case against Democrats, his case against President Biden. That's what really, really riled the crowd up. They sort of laughed at some of this commentary. So I think for those folks, they don't take the former president too serious.
Well, there's something that I think was very serious yesterday, Megan. He took his rhetoric surrounding January 6th a step further, suggesting that those who stormed the Capitol were, quote, warriors. A lot of people may have overlooked this over the weekend, but that's the language he used. Let's watch.
But those J6 warriors, they were warriors, but they were really more than anything else. They're victims of what happened. All they were doing is protesting a rigged election. That's what they were doing. So when we get in, it's going to go very rapidly. We're going to do a lot of things. We're going to look very strongly at J6. Those people, there has never been people treated more horrifically than J6 hostages. What a setup that was.
Now, reality check, Megan. The police officers who were defending the Capitol on January 6th, they were the warriors.
Correct.
They were under attack. They defended the Capitol. And I think the other thing that's outrageous about this is this happened just a few days after D-Day. Those are warriors.
Correct.
Storming the beaches of Normandy, that's a warrior, not storming the Capitol.
Yes, I think the warriors, just like you said, are the folks that President Biden and other world leaders were honoring today, or honoring a few days ago in France for D-Day. And also, just like you mentioned, the police that were there defending the Capitol. It's offensive that he would call these folks who broke the law, who are insurrectionists, warriors. But I mean, Donald Trump is saying exactly who he is, and he is saying exactly what people need to be listening to when it comes time to vote.
Megan, the Biden folks have been grappling with this what they call Trump amnesia. I mean, has January 6th just been sort of erased from a lot of voters' minds in a way that is not good for the president?
No, I don't. And I think that people do have short-term memory. I think that's been proven over and over again every time we have an election. Yeah. But I do think when it comes time to start voting in November, Trump is going to continue to say things and continue to incite this incendiary language like he's doing. And he's very, like, comparing himself to Jesus. That's very narcissistic. Topics. So I think that people are going to start paying attention and start to remember. So I don't necessarily think that people are going to forget when it's time to vote. I just think people need to be reminded, and I think that's what the Biden campaign is trying to do. I'm not sure it's working just yet, but I think they have 5 months to help that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose folks might blow off the Jesus stuff and say, okay, like you were saying earlier, it's just kidding and that sort of thing. But when Donald Trump calls the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, the Capitol, I mean, we're sitting in front of it, warriors. Isn't there a part of you that just recoils?
So strategically, and Megan made a really, really good point. This is a part of the problem, I would argue, for the Trump campaign. And I know for a fact that some of the folks on the campaign would prefer the former president to stick to the issues, because if you look at some of the polling, he does pretty well on some of the issues.
Rally after rally, he calls them hostages.
It's this
now he's calling
type
them warriors.
of imagery that could turn out some people who are on the fence about President Biden, who are saying, you know what, I'm just going to stay home, I'm going to disengage altogether, which does benefit the former president. Those folks who will see this stuff constantly, and if the Biden campaign continues to do ads on social media, radio ads, television ads, it does sort of remind people, you know what, I just don't think I want to be bothered with another 4 years of chaos. That isn't good for the former president. So if I was advising him, my advice is stick to the issues. People don't want to be reminded of chaos. It turns them off, Jim.
Yeah.